Hi, this is Eden Sunshine. I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to document a system in Yoda. So after you've logged into your system, you'll see your typical screen here, and we're going to actually walk you through a practical on how to document a system. The first thing that I want to draw your attention to is if you go to the Master Systems list, within the Master Systems list for your company, you should be able to locate a system entitled How to Document a System in Yoda. And we're just going to scroll through the list here, and you can see right here that that system is located and would be located in with your company's Master Systems list. And I'm simply just going to be walking you through this system as it's documented in this tutorial. So if you need reference or information or to go back to this system at some time in the future, you can easily do that. Just access the system documentation process in Yoda for your particular company. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the documentation of a system called documenting or adding a new user in Yoda. So let me go ahead and find that. And you can, by the way, when you're looking for a system in Yoda, in the Master Systems list, you can actually just type in a quick search to identify. So let's just type in the term Yoda and hit search, and you'll see that there's actually a system here called adding a new user in Yoda. So we're going to go ahead and click on that, and you'll see that it takes us to the system documentation screen. So you'll notice here, I'm just going to point out a few things, that you've got your system name, and the second step here is to determine the status for the system. And you'll notice there's a handful of different options here for statuses. In the system documentation process, Yoda, the system for how to document your systems, you'll see that a more complete description of each of these. Or you could create a definition of system status yourself for your own company. So in this particular case, we're going to go ahead and indicate that this system is in initial documentation. Step 3 is to determine what the department is for that system. So you'll want to go ahead and indicate, in this particular case, this company system has been indicated for a company-wide. Also, step 4 is indicate the first and last name of the person who is documenting that system. Step 5 is where you're going to indicate how often this system is required to be operated. In the system notes section here, which is step 6 on the system, this field here is used exclusively for notes related to this system. You're not going to see anything that you enter in here anywhere else in a system. So it's just a reference to anybody that might be documenting the system. The next step is to indicate the due date on the system. So when you assign the system, or the system has been assigned to you to document it, chances are someone in your company, perhaps your systems coordinator, is going to assign a due date that that system should be documented by. Anytime you see a update button, we want to go ahead and click that. That will save any of the information that we've entered in so far, and you want to make sure you do that regularly. Next, you're going to want to go to step 11 and hit Document System. And that's going to open up a new field of information. So the first step here in this section is entering in the result statements. And hopefully by now you've been trained on result statements. If you haven't been, you can refer to the document library or the system within Yoda on how to document or how to create a result statement. For the sake of this process, I've already documented this information, so I'm just going to simply cut and paste it. So in this particular case, the result statement for entering in a user is to accurately add all the company users in the most effective manner. So the result statement is quantifiable, or it's measurable. And how are we going to measure if that result statement is accurate, or that result statement is working, or the system is working? We'll apply a systems evaluation method, and in this particular case, we're just simply going to conduct an audit of the employees to make sure that they have access to Yoda. That way we know that the system is working properly. Now, the next step in the documentation of a system is to make sure that you assign the system manager. Now, each system can only have one system manager. This is the person that is responsible for making sure that this system works. They may or may not be an operator of the system. So for the sake of the documentation of this system, we're going to indicate that the manager of this system is the director of fulfillment. And we go ahead and select. Now, if we want to multi-select positions, we can go ahead and do that just by simply holding the control key down, or we can use the shift key to multi-select multiple people. So again, in this particular case, we just want the director of fulfillment. Now, if you have a person in your company that is a primary system operator, a primary system operator is a person that is supposed to remember to operate the system when it comes up. A system operator is someone that is responsible for knowing how to operate that system and accountable and trained for it. So in this particular case, we're going to indicate that the internal systems coordinator is the system operator for this particular system. Now, core competencies refer to any training or minimum requirements somebody would need to have in order to know how to operate the system. In this particular case, we may have indicated that there are none required. So these fields must be entered. So we are going to enter in none required. All right, any resources, Yoda, and list of employees who will have access to Yoda. So these are any tools, resources that are necessary in order to be able to operate the system. Now, standards and guidelines refer to any information somebody might need to have in order to be prepared to operate the system. So let's take a look at our notes here that we completed. So standards and guidelines. We'll go ahead and cut and paste that information. So basically suggests that all position titles need to be entered into Yoda. Let's go ahead and make that change so it's accurate. Yoda first before adding the users. We do need to have the positions, as we referenced earlier above, entered into the system before we are going to enter users. Add users that are on the top of the organization chart first, the owner, managers, employees in this order. Administrative access should be owners, and so on and so forth. So this is just information that somebody who's operating the system on adding a user to Yoda would need to know in order to operate the system. So we're going to go ahead and update the document and scroll down. Now we're going to go ahead and begin to add system steps. So the first step here would be we're going to click on Add System Steps, and we're going to add our first step number, which is number 1. Let's go to our reference here. So step 1. And we're just going to go ahead and cut and paste that. So it simply says, gather the list of all the employees who need to have access to Yoda. Make sure you have an email address and list of positions they occupy. You might want to refer to your company organization chart for details. And then go ahead and save the system step. Now it's asking me again, do I want to add another step? So I'm going to enter in step 2. Go to my notes from earlier and simply cut and paste. Now you can also enter in the information right in here, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I've documented the systems first. And you notice here that you have a whole bunch of elements that you can customize the size, the font, the color, any type of rich text formatting that you want to apply to a system step. Now you'll also notice here that there's a reference to positions, timing, and resources. If you have a system that requires different people operating different steps in the system, in this particular case, you might want to assign the position to the specific step. Now, I will tell you it's fairly unusual that you would have multiple people operating within the same system, but it's not completely unheard of. In terms of timing, this is where you might enter in information on when a system step should be completed by, or when the system should be completed by, and also any potential resources that might be necessary to operate that particular step. Now, some people will actually enter that information in the actual step or the system step itself, but that's totally up to you. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and pick up the next step, which would be step 3. We'll go ahead and cut and paste that in there. Add step 3. And just for the sake of this tutorial, we're not going to go through and document the entire system, but let's just say that I am done adding, so I'll click on Finish Adding Steps. Now, you can scroll down to the bottom of the system and you'll see that the system steps have been added. And if we want to take a look at the system as it would print, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that, and you'll see that your system as it is documented would show up like this with your company logo showing up in this box here. Finally, if you want to add an external document to your system, that's pretty simple to do. Just click on the Add Your External Document, find the name of the document you want to add, hit the Open button. Now, when you enter in the name of the document, it's very important that you also add the file extension. So if it's a PDF document, you want to make sure that you add PDF at the end, or if it's a Word document, add .doc, etc. If you don't add that, the document will simply not add. And then you simply hit Upload Document, and then click Save. In a moment, you'll see that that document has been attached to the system. Now, you might use that to attach a checklist. You might use it to attach some kind of form or supporting documentation to go along with your system. You might even include screenshots and so on and so forth. So you also notice that if you want to edit a system step, you just click on the step itself, and you can add all sorts of other information in there if you'd like. You can even add images to a system. So in this particular case, let's see if we can find something that we might want to add. There's a picture of a Starbucks cup, so I can go ahead and add that. Select Save Step, close the window, and you'll see that there's an image actually saved there. And if I want to remove the image, I'll simply go in to the system step, and I will want to click on that image if I'm able to. Let's see here. There we go. Backspace, and your image is gone and it's been saved. Lastly, if you find that you've been documenting your steps and realize that you've put them out of order, you can select the Reorder button, and you'll see that there's opportunities here for you to change or reorder your system steps. If you do reorder your system steps, just click the Reorder Steps button and it will go ahead and save it. And there you have it. So if you were to now go to adding a user in Yoda, you could actually go back to your master systems list now that we've changed it. And if I needed to know how to add a user as an operator in this company, I can find that system in Yoda, or I can also go to the document library, find the position that that person is the operator, click on the system, and you'll see that that system is right in there in Yoda. So there you have it. This is the system on tutorial on how to document a system in Yoda.